I want to welcome everyone on YouTube. All right, so are y'all very excited tonight? We're going to talk about 4 things you can do to increase your credit score 100 plus points. Very popular topic these days, and I'm looking forward to getting into it. I have several co-hosts that will be popping in and moderators. I want to welcome Vance Dotson out in Oklahoma City. Vance, you want to let everyone know who you are? And Vance, are you there? All right, so we're going to have a few people on, but I just wanted to acknowledge those that'll be helping me.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Vance, for dropping in. And I am pretty new to the broadcasting. I'm also on YouTube, so y'all bear with me. I'm gonna get into this information, and if there's any technical difficulties, y'all just bear with me as I get it all worked out. Let's see here. If you're on YouTube, welcome. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and put something in the comment box and let me know you're on. All right, so I'm Brian Ponder. I go by many other titles. One of them is, Brian the Credit Lawyer. That's because my law practice, deals a lot with consumer law, which includes credit. It includes debt issues, and it also includes, in my practice, real estate litigation, such as foreclosure defense. And I would say 90% or more of my practice is dedicated to those areas. So I've been dealing with credit for, I think we're going on 16, almost 17 years. I've been helping others with credit since 2005. I've been helping myself with credit since 2004. So I'll, give you a little backstory on that. And let's see. Back in 2004, I was in business, I would say, for several years. I had plenty of what you would call, even in today's terms, plenty of income, but came to learn quickly that I had horrible credit. And what happened is this: when I was renting a penthouse at the time, and penthouse obviously is a high rise, top floor of a high rise, 5,000 square feet. And at the time, really had no interest in buying a house, but I came across this house on 1.3 acres on the river, went to see the house, and I didn't have a real estate agent. Family friend told me about the house, and I went to take a look at it, and it was in a gated neighborhood, had only 3 homes in it. And I think my home was the smallest one. And that was, and the house was, I think total square footage, maybe 5,600 square feet, if you include the finished basement. I think it was 3,600, a little over 3,600 square feet, just the first 2 floors, but beautiful home. It had a sign outside, and I called the real estate agent. Real estate agent said, I asked the agent, look, can I see this house? I really, really like it. The agent said, her name was Donna. I remember her name, Donna. I don't know her last name, but her name was Donna. She said, yeah, sure. We just asked that you provide us with a pre-qualification letter, and you can see the home. Well, I said, okay. I didn't really know what that meant, but I ended up contacting a mortgage loan officer who was referred to me, and he ran my credit report. And when he ran my credit report, he said, "You have a 494 credit score." I said, "Great." He's like, "No, that's not great. You can't you can't finance anything with that." And long story short, this loan officer educated me on how to get this loan closed. And at the time, I was working in healthcare. At the time, I didn't qualify, of course, financially, credit wise, to buy the home. I had sufficient income. I was making multiple six figures as a 26-year-old at the time. But my credit score at 494, you can't get any loan. I don't think so. At least I don't think I could have gotten any loan with that score. The loan officer educated me on how to deal. I had collections. And what happened when I was in high school, and I'm surprised any of this stuff was on my credit report, but when I was in high school, I got credit cards. And as soon as I got that card, I went and put some music in my 200 SX twin turbo Nissan. Oh no, maybe it wasn't twin turbo, but it was turbo Nissan. And given my credit education, I didn't think you had to pay it back. And so those credit cards were charged off, picked up by collection company, debt buyers. My credit was just shot. I was able to learn how to properly take care of those things and get them off of my credit report. However, luckily I had learned that you could buy a house through a lease purchase. And so a lease purchase is when you can't qualify to finance the house right away, but you can lease it and get the option or the right to purchase it at a later date. And so to do this, you have to pay an option fee, which is a down payment. You have to determine a lease payment. And now, if you all happen to do this yourself, what you want to do, like I did, you can actually identify a certain amount or designate a certain amount of that lease payment that will go towards your purchase price. Okay, it's very important to do that because it's not automatic. You have to negotiate all of these terms. So I was able to enter into a lease purchase agreement with the builder of this house, who actually was the seller. And I think November 2004, I moved into the home. I, got a lease purchase agreement. The purchase price was $625,000. I forget how much of the lease payment went towards the purchase. I think it was maybe $1,000 of the payment per month. Now, implementing some of the things I'm going to teach you tonight, I was able to increase my credit score into the low to mid 600s and close on this home on February 2005. And so if you do your math, that's only a few months. And so even back then, I was able to accomplish that and increase my credit score almost 200 points. Over 100 points, but almost 200 points and qualify. And back then, you remember those 80-20 loans? I was able to get an 80-20 loan, and I was able to close on that home. The real estate agent, I didn't have my own agent. The real estate agent at the time cleared in commission over $28,000. Now, I don't know about today, but back then, when I got out of college, I went to a pretty good school. My first job, I had a $30,000 salary, and this was back in 2001 when I started my job in healthcare. And so when I saw that large commission, I was like, wow, because the house sold itself. No one convinced me to get that house. I fell in love with the house. And shortly thereafter, I became a real estate agent, started selling homes and helping people with their credit in healthcare, different surgeons I work with, nurses. And fast forward to the day, I'm actually a real estate broker in New York. I'm a real estate agent in Georgia. And so I still am able to help people. And when I became a lawyer, I went to end up retiring from the medical field well, semi-retiring to go to law school, and then after I finished law school and and took and passed a bar exam in New York for the first time, and started a law practice, I shortly thereafter retired from the medical field altogether. But when I first started my practice, I was doing a lot of injury cases. Then I was like, well, why don't I go back and help consumers like I helped others from the legal standpoint? And that's what I've been doing ever since. And so that's really my trajectory from, a healthcare worker in surgery every day, working, looking at people's spinal cord and brain, to going to law school and helping people achieve their financial goals by utilizing different areas of law. So it's been an exciting journey. See a lot of familiar faces in the clubhouse. Um, some other fellow lawyers, Darren Hawthorne, how you doing? Um, and some other credit professionals in here. So we're going to talk some good stuff. So I just want to give y'all a backstory, let you know I'm a real person. A lot of the things I help people with are in my practice areas are areas that I have personally experienced and know very well, have hands-on experience in it. And just want to set the base, set the basis of everything we're going to talk about. And for those that are coming in here that may already be in this field, first of all, understand and accept the fact that you don't know everything. Now, I've been practicing law 8 years. I've been in the credit area 16 years, and I still don't know everything there is to know. And so once you allow yourself to accept the fact that you don't know everything, it actually helps you. It allows you to understand that you have many things you can learn. Okay. A lot of people, and I teach tonight, you're going to walk away here knowing some things you didn't know before. Okay. Now, some of you that are just in here not listening and just want to come up and ask a question, you're going to have to take a step back and just sort of absorb the information, get an understanding, add on to your information. Even those of you that's been doing this for 10 years, there's always more to learn. The laws are always changing. The interpretation of the laws are always changing. There's plenty to know. And so, like myself, you can always learn. And I try to teach people in the most basic fashion because I know the attention span isn't that great. Sometimes these things can get complex from a legal standpoint, but I want to keep everything pretty simple. There's a concept called KISS, keep it simple and stupid. And that's what I really want to do. If you have any questions, definitely tap in. If you're on YouTube, you can tap in and ask your question. You can type it out. If you look at my profile, you'll see that I have a book that's going to go into great detail about what we're talking about. And until I don't know how long, but I'm giving away a lot of bonuses with this book. So people that get the book, they can just forward their confirmation to me, and I'm providing them with over a dozen bonus letters and materials. And I can tell you it won't last long, so you might want to take advantage of that. If you find value in anything that we're talking about tonight, I do have a lot of work. If I could show you, all the work I have to help support the channel and me having the opportunity to do this, definitely you can Cash App, Venmo, you can super chat. If you're on YouTube, I would appreciate it. Also, like and subscribe. Follow me. Follow all the moderators. Very important. I'll tell you why shortly. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. I'm going to tell you some more things as we go. But let's first, I know why you're here. You want to know what 4 things you can do to increase your credit score 100 plus points. I know a lot of you see this a lot, but I'm gonna give you some things that can actually allow you to do this. A lot of people are wondering, well, how long is it going to take me to do that? Well, I just told you a scenario where I moved into a home over $500,000 in November 2004. By February, I think it was February 5th, 2005, I was able to close with 100% financing mortgage financing on this home. Okay. My score went over 100 points increase. All right. Um, so I'm going to teach you the techniques I used back then. Now, what's different today? Today, you're going to get, honestly, you can probably get a couple hundred points because the techniques I'm going to tell you uh, have improved tremendously since 16 years ago. So you're going to get the 2021 edition of the steps I use to increase my score over 100 points. How long does it take? Well, it does not take a long time. Like I said, I gave you a scenario when I was purchasing a home in less than 4 months, I was able to achieve this. And so with the information I know now, which you're going to know, you can achieve this in just a couple months if you follow all the steps. And so let's get right to it. Now, at any point, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand, jump in, and I'm looking forward to giving you all this information. Now, all the things I'm talking about today are in my book, 4 Steps to Better Credit. And so the 4 steps, the 4 things you can do are the 4 steps. So we're going to go through those steps, and you have the author, the attorney, right here to walk you through it. So you really should not walk away with any questions about what those steps are. Let's say it like that. You should really have your questions answered and know verbatim what the steps are. Now, the 4 steps, I made an acronym. When I was in healthcare, we had to learn a whole lot of anatomy, a whole lot of stuff, a whole lot of different things, and even in law school, some acronyms helped me remember a lot of things. And the 4 steps, I like to call it keeping it real, REAL. And so REAL, the first letters of the word real constitute the 4 steps. And so step 1, and these steps, by the way, they're simple, and they're simple for a reason, but they're powerful. Step number 1 is you want to review. You want to review what? You want to review your credit reports. All right. Now, you think that sounds simple, but a lot of people, you would be surprised how many people jump on Clubhouse, jump on the telephone with me. They'll schedule an appointment with me and want to talk about something, specifically their credit, without emailing me their credit report, without knowing what the credit problem is. And so this step is very, very important. You can't improve your credit score without reviewing your credit reports. Now, that doesn't seem too groundbreaking, but let me tell you, you have dozens and dozens and dozens of credit reports. A lot of people think, well, I have Credit Karma. Well, first of all, Credit Karma will only tell you 2 of your credit report information. So Credit Karma will give you TransUnion and Equifax. And even with Equifax, I think people are having issues with updating the Equifax on Credit Karma. But understand that's not all your credit history. Those are not all your credit reports. All right. You can use, and I recommend you could use My FICO. Now, what's good about My FICO is that it gives you all 3 credit report information when you get the 3B product, but it also gives you your FICO score. And the FICO score is a score that mortgage lenders use, and other, credit card companies, etc. The scoring system that they use to qualify you to access capital. And a lot of you on here want to access capital. Well, My FICO would give you that score. Now, some of you have credit cards and banking relationships that produce a FICO score for you. That's great. But understand that a lot of those may give you 1 of your FICO scores and not all 3. Okay. Now, the con, I will speak to con. The con of My FICO is it's not free, but nothing is free really, but air, and even air these days is can be contaminated. So you have to wear masks in some places. Or whatever. So nothing's free, and if it's free, it's not going to really be complete and proper for what you're trying to do. So When you review your credit report, understand you need to review the one specific to what you're going to be doing. If you buy a house, you're buying a car, things like that, well, they're going to use certain consumer reporting agencies. And a consumer reporting agency is like Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. Those are consumer reporting agencies. Now, I will tell you, you want to get your words right. And no matter what you're doing, whether you work at Walmart or you work, no matter what you do, you want to understand terminology. What I mean by that is understand, what Equifax is. They're not a credit bureau, because in the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the word bureau refers to a certain entity, which is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So when you call Equifax a credit bureau, it's giving them way more prompts and government power, and that's not what they have. They are a private entity. They are not a bureau. The word bureau is defined as the CFPB, Financial Protection Bureau. So I recommend you just take the words credit bureau out of your vocabulary. If you want to call them something, call them a consumer reporting agency, or CRA for short, or credit reporting agency. But do not call them a bureau. They're not a bureau, because that definition tends to include a governmental entity, which they are not. And the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has enforcement power to enforce consumer laws against the consumer reporting agencies and other entities like debt collectors. All right. So for starters, you want to review your credit report. For starters, you also want to be sure to review the top three: Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. However, you want to go beyond them, because some of those CRAs pull information from other CRAs. For example, public records, tax liens, judgments. That's going to be pulling from LexisNexis. It may be pulling from CoreLogic, which also holds residency, apartment information, eviction information. You have Innovis. A lot of credit card companies are getting very smart to the fact that you're getting very smart enough to dispute stuff with the top three consumer reporting agencies. And so what do they do? Well, they'll pull your TransUnion and your Innovis. And so now they're pulling two credit reports. And how do I know this? Because if people come to me with denials, the credit reporting laws require that if you're denied credit due to something on your credit report, by law, the denying company has to send you an adverse action letter. If they don't, they're in violation of the Fair Credit Reporting Act, which is called the FCRA. So when I see these denial letters, it's telling me what companies these credit card companies are pulling from. And I'm seeing them pull from Innovis, SageStream, along with Equifax, TransUnion, or Experian. And so what does that mean? That means you need to review these other consumer reporting agencies in addition to the top three. If you're just looking at your top three credit reporting agency reports, you're not doing yourself full justice. All right. And so let me see. Let's get some super chats going. Let's also get some let's get this, get your Cash App going. Let's keep it all going here. So let's keep this thing going if you can. All right. So, all right, we don't have anything yet, so I guess I haven't given any good information. So let me get to it. So you want to review all of those consumer reports. If you're doing any banking, or if you have any issues opening a bank account, well, that's because there's something on your check systems. Check systems is a consumer reporting agency. And so if you try to open a bank account and they deny you, that's why. So you're going to have to pull that report. So very, very important. If you're trying to get auto insurance and it's very high, well, there's something on your clue report. That's produced by LexisNexis. You're going to need your clue report. Now, if you order your clue report, it's going to be, depending on how old you are, it could be tens or hundreds of pages. A lot of information is kept about you. So you're going to need to pull all of those reports. It's very important. These are some 4 steps, but you have to keep in mind, you have to complete all these steps. The first step, review, is super important. So you're going to have to pull all of those reports. Let's see here. I'm going to got questions as we go. Let's see here. All right, Russell, what question did you have?
I didn't necessarily have one question. I'm currently working with somebody working on my credit now. I didn't do the, what did you call it, the LexisNexis? I didn't do that one. And I didn't do one of the other ones you said. So I wasn't aware of those. But how much do those affect your credit?
Okay, they affect it very much. For example, the LexisNexis is actually a furnisher of certain information to other consumer reporting agencies. And so, for example, bankruptcies. The bankruptcy court is not providing the CRAs with your bankruptcy information. So if you want to stop that information from reporting, you can dispute it with the top 3, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, but you might want to, it's like, do you want to pull it up from the root? If you just, if you ever cut a weed, it's going to come back. And so public record information ultimately needs to be deleted at the source level, the source that's furnishing it, which is LexisNexis. Once you get LexisNexis to delete it and stop reporting it, it's not going to show up again. The court's never going to furnish it to anyone. So no need to even write the court. Some courts have some judges have written scathing letters to people that keep bugging the courts about, imagine a million people taking some bad advice and writing to court. That's a lot of burden on the court clerks just to tell you they don't furnish information. Well, you're going to hear it here. The courts do not furnish public record information to consumer reporting agencies. So don't bother the court clerks. They're already overworked. LexisNexis provides that. Okay. Apartment data. Ever been evicted from an apartment? Do you owe money on the apartment? Well, CoreLogic is a big holder of that information. And so if you apply for housing, such as apartment housing, they're going to check that CoreLogic report many times. And so that's not Equifax, Experian, or TransUnion. So if you can't figure out why the heck can I get somewhere to stay? Well, it's likely because of what's on that CoreLogic report. And so anyway, those are very, very important. And that's a good question, because a lot of people think, and a lot of people engage credit repair people. If you engage a credit repair company, I'm almost willing to bet they're not going to deal with these secondary reporting entities, which is why stuff may pop back up, which is why stuff may not get deleted ultimately. And so now that you know this, you can understand that credit repair, which is a term, that's a legal term. And don't be ashamed of the word credit repair. That is a real term, legal term. There's actually a federal law regarding credit repair called the Credit Repair Organizations Act. So credit repair is not a bad word. It's something we all need to deal with. And that you need to, who broke your credit may not be you. It's really the consumer reporting agencies that are inaccurately reporting information. So you have to repair it. Even if you have good credit, it still needs repair. Okay. Like you have a good car. If you have a Rolls Royce, you're going to, as nice as it is, it's going to need maintenance. It's going to need to go to the shop. It's going to need care. Okay. So don't be ashamed of the fact that you need to focus on your credit. Now, a lot of you are here tonight saying, well, I can imagine a lot of people are here saying, you're trying to watch the news and this, you need to pay attention, because this is not something that you can just pay someone to do without having a full understanding. If you just heard what I said, even if you pay a credit repair company to fix your credit's still not fixed. They only dealing with 3 of maybe 43 reporting agencies that are publishing information about you. It's not fixed. Okay. If anything, they're cutting the weed for you at ground level. Okay. You may be able to get a little temporary relief, but if you don't really look deeper, you're not going to have long-term uh, success with your credit. Why is credit so important? Why is everyone always talking about credit? I mean, gosh, such a scam. Okay, you can't go in the military without credit. You can't get a job without credit. You can't buy a car without credit. Well, um, this guru says I need to cut up credit cards. I don't need credit cards. Well, first of all, they're lying to you. They're lying to you. Was it Susie Orman, Dave Ramsey? Dave Ramsey is specifically, and I'll tell him to his face, you're lying to people. Now, why are you saying that? Are you being harsh? Well, it's the truth. Now, there's a reason why they're lying to you, because most people abuse credit. And so they're telling you to cut up credit cards because if I give you a 30, you can use the information I'm telling you tonight, and next month you may qualify for a $25,000 credit card. What are you going to do with it? More likely than not, which means 50%, 51% of you or more will abuse it. You'll go to the mall, you'll buy some purses, you'll buy some stuff, and go into debt. And so that's why many of the financial gurus tell you to cut up your credit cards, and you don't need credit. You need to be debt free. But that's the worst advice you can. I mean, for those of you that are going to become sophisticated people with respect to your own financing, you need more credit and debt to succeed. Okay. So that advice that they're given is for the minority of people. Well, I'm sorry, it's for the majority of people who will abuse their credit. Okay. But if you get that same $25,000 credit card, use it to leverage yourself and qualify yourself for business credit, you can have $250,000 in business credit for one business in just a few months' time. With that access to $250,000 of credit, you can buy assets, buy businesses, buy income producing properties, and flip that to $1 million worth of access to credit with that $1 million. And not to mention, you can create multiple business entities. So before you know it, you can have access to millions of dollars in credit, which can be leveraged to acquire assets that produce cash flow and income. Okay. Well, the gurus are not talking to those people because that's a minority of people that will have enough sense to leverage their credit to make money versus leveraging their credit to go into debt by spending money. Okay. So that's why the advice you're getting is wrong, but is right for a majority of people, because a majority of people will take the right information and do the wrong things. I'm going to give you the right information and encourage you to do the right things and try to discourage you to do the wrong things. It's wrong to use credit to go into debt and buy liabilities or things that are depreciating assets. Okay. Stuff, in other words. Okay. It's okay to use credit to leverage your business, to buy things that you can afford, and you can afford something by paying it off. And it's also okay to buy things at a low interest rate. So why would you spend $30,000 cash on a car when you can buy a car and get a super low interest rate? Or why would you may have 150,000 saved up in cash, but if interest rates are super low, use other OPM, other people's money, and take advantage of the low interest rate. Your money goes way further when you leverage credit versus your own cash. When you think about it, borrowed money can be infinite depending on how you do it. So that's why it's important. Everything you do in life deals with credit. If you have a life Where you're not dealing with credit, well, you're likely paying too much for things. You're likely over leveraging and overusing your cash reserves. And so it's very, very important to have good credit. Why should you educate yourself on it? You have so much better things to do. Well, you will spend a lot of cash and resources just letting someone else do your credit, because at the end of the day, you're the one reaching into your wallet. You're going to have to educate yourself what habits will help your credit versus hurt your credit. And so, so Russell, did that answer your question? I think we, yeah. So these different consumer reporting agencies, they answer.
I apologize. I didn't cut you off. Yes, it does. I did. It brought up one other question, and it's just, I guess it's.
Go ahead.
So, does that stuff not report on your credit at all, even where it says like the public records section?
Oh yeah, the public records things are on your credit. That's, I mean, what you see there is what's reported. Public records, if they will be on your credits. I mean, if you see it on a consumer report, it is there. The only thing you'll see on a consumer report, well, yes, it's reported. If you see a public record, it's reported. Now, let me educate you all a little bit on what a credit report is. A lot of you think you know what a credit report is, and unfortunately, you don't. When you go, I'm sure y'all seen the commercial. When you go to annualcreditreport.com and fill out the paperwork or input the information and pull a report from Experian, Equifax, or TransUnion, that's not a credit report. When you go to Experian.com and fill out the free access, populated data and pull your report from the credit report section of Experian.com, that is not your credit report. When you go to Equifax.com and pull and register with them for free and pull your report from them, that is not a credit report. TransUnion, not a credit report. LexisNexis, when you go to these different entities and pull up what they give you, that's not a credit report. And under the FCRA, which is called the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the word credit report is really consumer report. And so when I say credit report, I'm talking about consumer reports as well. But what you get from annualcreditreport.com, Experian, and LexisNexis, those are not consumer reports legally. They are called consumer disclosures. And there's a big difference. A consumer disclosure is what the consumer reporting agency gives to you. A credit report is what the consumer reporting agencies publish and sell and deliver to third parties. Completely different. Now, how's it different? Well, if you ever applied for a mortgage and the lender or loan officer was so good and kind enough to show you that report, that's a credit report or consumer report. That is a consumer report. Now, if you've ever been on Credit Karma and pulled up that report, that is a consumer report or credit report. If you go to Identity IQ and pull up your credit report there, that is a consumer report or credit report. Okay. So why is that? Why is it important to understand the difference? Well, you cannot sue on information. You can, but you won't win. You can't sue on information that you see on a disclosure. So you can't take it. I know a lot of you, this is new information. If it is new information, go to that Cash App, Super Chat, and go ahead and show some love there. But you cannot sue on that information successfully on that information alone. That information contained in those disclosures need to have been published by way of a consumer or credit report to a third party for it to be actionable. And so those disclosures that you get from annualcreditreport.com Experian, that's just informative to you. You can't really take action on it. You need to pull a real credit report for you to have a live case against the consumer reporting agency. Okay, but it's still good to get those disclosures But understand, it's just informative. It's not something you can act on. And so while a lot of people tell you, oh, Credit Karma isn't accurate, well, no. Correction. Their the credit score that they give you is not accurate. But the information you see on there is real information furnished by consumer reporting agencies, and that is a credit report. I've settled many cases from people who pulled up their Credit Karma and certain debts were not marked disputed. We've gotten thousands of dollars for those violations, thousands each case. Okay.
Hey, Mr. Ponder.
Yes, Vance.
So to go further into his question, he said, well, let's talk about public record information. So basically, what you said was LexisNexis is the furnisher. Well, if you go back to the FCRA, it says the CRA must relay over the information to the furnisher. Well, they have the courthouse listed as the furnisher. So the question becomes, who did they notify? So basically, it's an ACDV form. Well, it used to be paper, so it was a CDV form. Well, see, a CDV form, which is paper's old school way, consumer dispute verification. So now it's all automated, so it's called an ACDV form. So back in 2018, lady comes up to me, said, hey, she filed bankruptcy probably 3 years before. And basically, we dispute, and information comes back verified. We files a lawsuit in Southern District of Texas. We go into litigation. TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, when we're bringing up these key points, who did you send the ACDV form to? They said LexisNexis. Well, then basically we got them on the hook. So they settled the case for $15,000 a piece, and they removed the bankruptcy off of the consumer's report. So the information you just gave out was 100% correct. And if you litigate it properly, you're going to get money, get the information off of the report, and go on with your life. But yeah, what you're saying, it's just people have to understand the language. It's just like you said. So with you being a lawyer, giving out this legal free information is super awesome. But people have to understand the language of what's going on to convey it over to a judge and say, wow, look, you have to remove this information, you have to pay, whatever it is you're asking. But I know early on, the CRAs, they act kind of tough at first until you start legally chopping them down. So I had a case in 2019 that settled for $300,000. So essentially, when I got into litigation with Experian, people believe that, when you send a dispute to the CRAs, it's a human that's performing the investigation. Well, to step back, so a dispute is technically called a reinvestigation. So people believe that, that a human is basically essentially conducting the investigation. Well, that's not true. So Experian sent the notification to South America.
and it's people in South America that handles that information. So when Experian sends off an ACDV form to the furniture, the information comes back verified within 3 seconds. That's not proper time to do an investigation. So you have to analyze every document, every step that they take, because in the FCRA case, so it's just like when I was deposing Experian, I asked the lady, she was telling me everything that these disputing agents do, what codes they use, who it was, things of that nature. Well, then I asked her, I said, hey, well, do you have firsthand knowledge of this? Well, I said, before you even answer that question, keep in mind, they do this in South America. So I said, do you have a passport? And the lawyer objected to it. I said, you can still answer. She said, no, I don't have a passport. So I got her testimony as he say, she say. So I went to the courts and I said, hey, I want to depose the people who actually touch my disputes. And so we went off into a legal battle, but at the end of it, I won the legal battle. And then that's when it all folded down. Because in history, Equifax, TransUnion, or Experian never brought anybody to the table to be deposed. And so research just told me that. And so that was my angle, and that's how the case ended.
Awesome, Vance. We have some more people that had a question. Thanks, Russell,
Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it.
No problem. 18. You have the floor. What was your question? All right, top notch. We're on step 1.
Hey, how you doing?
We're doing great.
Hey, man, I appreciate all the information that you guys is dropping.
Mm-hmm.
I just got one question. I'm sitting here with my wife right now. She got a question about a student loan. She has student loans on her credit report. So we kind of like having a little disagreement. She don't understand how student loans could be removed. Is there anything that you could drop on that?
Absolutely. So tonight we're talking about 4 things you can do to increase that credit score. Right now we're on step 1. So step 1, the first thing she wants to do is to review her credit reports to see how the student loans are listed. And so what you're asking for is going to sort of walk us into number 2, which is fine. But the first thing is she wants to pull all of her credit reports. And again, to do that, you're going to have to spend some money because Credit Karma is not going to show you all 3 of your reports. That's a start. Ultimately, you can get a FICO account at myfico.com, and that will show you all 3 credit reports. Now, that's step 1, review. So student loans are listed on your big 3, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Now, so we're going to walk into the second thing you can do to increase your credit score, which is step 2. And as a review, we're going to keep it real. REAL. Step 1 is review. The E, which we're on now, the second thing you can do, the second step, is to erase. What do you want to erase? E for erase. Step 2. Well, like 18 was saying, his wife, he's trying to communicate to his wife that you can erase student loans. Is that true? Yes, it is. Now, to understand how that's true, you have to understand what credit reporting is. Credit reporting is a system by which private companies put together your financial consumer information and sell it to others. Okay, it's a report card. It is not a legal doc. It is not a government document that's required, that's compiled by the government. Okay, in fact, the government came up with consumer laws, specifically the Fair Credit Reporting Act, to protect you from companies that do this. The companies that put together this information are called consumer reporting agencies, CRAs. They are not government entities. They are controlled and limited by the government by way of the consumer laws, the FCRA. And so when they put together a report about you, first of all, that's okay and legal, but they have to do it in compliance with the law. And in fact, when they sell this report to other people, that actually, I believe, actually violates the law because they're selling products under your name. That's called right of publicity when people sell products under your name without your authorization. So that's a different topic beyond the scope, but just understand that these companies are private companies putting together your information and selling it to people. Now, these reports, these reports, and I appreciate it, Mr. Out the Way. I appreciate the super chat, Rick Wyatt. I appreciate your super chat. Please keep them coming. Thank you, sir. So now we get into the student loans. So we just understand these credit reports are just reports put together by private companies and sold for profit. All right. Now, this information is restricted by the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and it's restricted in the sense that it has to be accurate and complete. And I see OJ, one of my former students, OJ Rushton, put in here 15 USC 1681B. That's a permissible purpose, but 1681 et sec, basically in all the subsections, that's the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Part B does talk about permissible purposes in using the reports, but 1681 EB talks about when consumer reporting agencies put together reports about you, they have to take all reasonable steps to make sure it's maximally accurate. In addition, everything needs to be complete. Now, if you go look at your student loan information on your credit reports right now, more likely than not, it's going to be reported inaccurately. More likely than not, it's going to be reported incompletely. I'm willing to bet you some money on that. The furniture of the information that's listed is going to be inaccurate. The furniture of the information is going to probably be incomplete. Your balance information is probably going to be inaccurate as of today. It's okay. Your payment history may be inaccurate. Your balance, even if you have paid off or refinance or consolidate your loan, is going to be either inaccurate or incomplete. And if any of you have paid off your student loans or have consolidated it, and if you look at your Experian report, you're going to see, you may see a dash or nothing. But in the comment section, you may see paid or closed. Well, let me ask you this. How does the FICO scoring system give you credit for a balance of a dash or a balance of zero? It cannot. It hurts you. It hurts you in that it doesn't benefit you. It's like you making an A in a course, but on your report card and your GPA is nothing. There's no grade, but you have the word passed in the comments section. Is that going to calculate into your GPA? Can your GPA calculate that if pass is a 4.0? No, it cannot. And so to Mr. A-Team here, if your wife does step one, review her reports and sees that this information is incorrect, she can use the Fair Credit Reporting Act to her advantage to write a letter. Now, when you order my book, this letter is in the book. It's called a CRA letter. And with a CRA letter, all you have to do is identify what trade line. Now, trade line is like a student loan. You have student loan, you may have 5 different trade lines for that student loan, for 5 different little loans related to your student loans. Each one you want to identify as being inaccurate or incomplete. It could be several reasons why it's inaccurate and incomplete. It could be the payment history, the balance, the furnisher's name. the law only requires that you dispute it and identify what account is inaccurate and incomplete. The Fair Credit Reporting Act does not, now show me where, but it does not require you to give them or correct them with respect to their information. You do not have to explain yourself, just like the police. You do not have to explain yourself. You may have to identify yourself to the police, but you do not have to explain where you're going and why. Okay, same thing with this credit reporting. You have to identify what's inaccurate and incomplete, but you do not have to explain yourself. If the trade line is inaccurate and incomplete, that's all you need to say. Now, with respect to identifying the issue, now there are two other words you need to use with respect to correcting the issue. Tell them, the CRA, to delete the trade line. Delete, D-E-L-E-T-E. Delete it. That's what you have to do. Okay, so that's how you can delete student loans. Now, why would you want to delete a student loan? Well, there's something called DTI, debt to income ratio. Student loans can be some of the biggest debts on your credit report. This can affect how much money you can borrow to buy yourself and your family a home. It could disqualify you from buying you and your family a home. So now, I don't know about you, but sometimes you can finish school and not realize, even though you're supposed to have an exit financial interview when you finish school, but a lot of you don't. And if you do, you're so excited about graduating, you're not really trying to think about the student loan discussion. But when you finish school, there's a period of time, and these student loan servicers are going to start reporting and collecting your student loans. And I know most people, when they finish school, that's the last thing in their mind. Their first thing is trying to find a job to survive and pay their bills. And so these student loans, a lot of you don't even realize that you have to start repaying them until they're in default. And so that may or may not be the situation with the A-team's wife, but many people, by the time they start recognizing the importance of student loan data on their credit report, it's already in default. Once it's in default, that default is going to show up for 7 years. It's like a 7-year prison sentence. And so instead of being in that 7-year prison sentence, you can delete that student loan altogether. How do I know? I've done it. How do I know for sure? I've done it for others. Okay, so it can be done. Why can it be done? Because this report does not have to have any information. There's no law requiring consumer reporting agencies to keep and report information about you, period. The laws restrict them on reporting. It does not give them the right to report information about you necessarily. And so, especially when information is inaccurate and incomplete, you have the right to get it deleted, and the consumer reporting agency has the obligation to delete it. Their obligation is to report accurate and complete information. Now, you don't have to coach them on how to report your student loan accurately. If they can't get it right, they need to delete it. And so that's how you can do that. I actually have what's called a student loan deletion package, because this is a problem for a lot of people. So if you go to my website, brianponder.com, and go to the menu item products, you'll see a package where you can actually get, and it'll actually give you, because a lot of you are not sure what to look for in the student loan trade lines and what to write. What I've done basically is modified some of the letters to tailor to the student loan deletion. So for those of you that want to do it yourself, I do have a guide for that. So 18, that's how that will work. Does that answer your question?
Yes, man. That definitely does.
Oh, that was top notch. Sorry about that.
Yeah, this is top notch.
All
I got my wife mouth open right now. She's stuck.
I appreciate that. Well, tell her after she is unparalyzed, go ahead and hit that cash app. I appreciate that. right. And go ahead and grab my book. I appreciate that.
Definitely. We on your site right now, man. I appreciate the knowledge, man.
All right. Make sure she's breathing now. All right. All right. So so that's that. 18. I was talking about you in advance, but you can jump on. Let me go through this question here. I appreciate the super chat. T Monroe, I appreciate that. 18, about to get right to you. I've been with a mortgage company for 11 years and I have always paid on time. However, there was one late payment shown on my credit report, disclosure report. How can I get this removed? Thanks. And T Monroe, awesome for you, overstanding the fact that you may have been looking at disclosure, not a report. But here's the thing: a lot of times, what's on that disclosure is going to make its way onto a report, and that's something you definitely want to deal with. So, you would use, first of all, you grab my book, you see 4 Steps to Better Credit, and chapter 2 is where we're on now. You're talking about how to erase, and so you go to chapter 2. And you're gonna look on page 33. Now, what you're gonna do as well, for those of you that buy this book tonight, you forward your receipt to brian@brianponder.com. You're gonna get a response that's gonna give you a link to the letters in this book in Microsoft Word and a dozen bonuses. And I'm telling you, you want to do this because it's going to save you some typing time and it's going to give you a whole lot. I mean, there are a few letters in this book, but the bonus link will give you over a dozen bonus materials and letters that's going to help you. And so what you would do is you would use the letter that's called a CRA letter. And you would say that the trade line item is inaccurate. Okay, assuming this is a good mortgage, except for this one late payment, like you're saying, you would list the account name, the account number, and then you would go into it by saying you would say that the month, year payment, late payment is inaccurate. And then you would demand that it be modified to show on time for that month. And then the rest of the letter is already contained here for you. And then you mail that in. You mail that to the consumer reporting agency or agencies that are listing that late payment. Okay. So if all 3 are reporting it, then you write a separate letter to each of the 3. But you have to, the key things is that you say that they're reporting inaccurate information and you list that inaccurate information by listing the account name, the account number, and that payment month and year. And then you say that that is inaccurate, and it's very important that you instruct them on how to fix it. And you want to use the word modify. And this is a good part for me to give you the 4 words that need to be in your CRA letter, or combination of the 2. Inaccurate and or incomplete need to be in there. So you need to be saying something is inaccurate. You need to be saying that something is incomplete, or both. Okay, so any of those combination of those 2 words you're going to need: inaccurate, incomplete. Don't say unverifiable. No. That's unverifiable is a determination that's made. It's not for you to make. You have to identify what's inaccurate and or incomplete. Now, there's an exception to this. You can put outdated. For example, if this late payment was 8 years ago, well, it should be off the report. It can't be reported over 7 years. And so if it's a late payment from 8 years ago, you can say that's outdated. But otherwise, if it's within 7 years, you need to identify what's inaccurate or incomplete. So those are one of those 2 words you should use. The other 2 words that you have to have in there are modify or delete. Okay. Update. Okay. If you want to say update, but I prefer you use modify because 1681 I it talks about the consumer reporting agency has to modify the report or delete the information. So if you want them to change something, you want to use the word modify. If you want the CRA to delete something, you need to use the word delete. Do you want to do you want to say remove? Sure. Okay. I recommend you say delete. And if you need them to change something, modify. So thanks, Team Monroe, for that super chat. Any more super chats? Go ahead and bring it. If you're on Clubhouse, you can still cash out. Just look at my profile. Let's see. I'm saying 18. We had someone has you as the moderator. 18. Did you have a question?
I'm just here listening.
Okay. Okay, great. Moderators, thank you for helping me bring people up from the audience, but don't make any more people moderators if I haven't made them a moderator. Thanks so much. Top notch, we answered your question, correct?
Absolutely, bro.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Oh, I thank you, and I'm looking forward to the.
This matter of fact, hold on. Let's see if my wife wants to say something. She's scared to talk on club.
Well,
never mind, man.
Okay.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna send you something right now.
Oh, I appreciate that. I need it.
Mm-hmm. We all do, man.
Appreciate it. Nathan, welcome.
Yeah, hey, how you doing? Thank you.
I'm doing great. Thank y'all for the super chats and keep it coming, people. What you got, Nathan?
So really my question is, so I work with like multiple different creditors, and like I've been hearing you say they're not really using the right tactics to take things off your credit. So I actually paid a couple of collections that I had when I was in college. So I paid them all off. I've sent letters, and like I told you before, I use other creditors, but they're not coming off, and I'm thinking that it's because you said they need to verify the keywords. So like, if I purchase your book or go through you, or however I got to do it, would those things come off? As far as like, it's about maybe 4 collections up there, but they're all paid off. And I got student loans, but I heard you talking up here saying that you can get those off most likely as well. And so that's really where I'm
All
at.
right. So I appreciate that, Nathan. Good question, good comments, and let's go through it a little bit. First of all, you're in the right place because you want to educate yourself. And we're going through 4 things you can do, and but it all revolves around education. So what you want to focus on is going through these 4 steps, which are very simple. You're going to review. That's step 1. You're going to erase. Now, what you're asking for is about removing information. So we're on that step. Your question was, can I or can anyone take off whatever it is that's negative? Well, first of all, I cannot, because I'm not the reporting agency who is publishing it, nor am I the furnisher. So I have ultimately no control over what's reported and what's deleted. Do I know how to go about the steps of trying to get that information off? Yes, but never try to charge someone with the duty or try to confine someone to the guarantee of being able to get anything off, because we can't, because we're not, no matter how much you pay someone, they cannot make that guarantee to you. The only thing they can do is hopefully do the appropriate dispute to facilitate the things that come off. And the appropriate dispute is a key word, because if it's not an appropriate dispute, it may not come off. Well, guess what? What if it is an appropriate dispute? Can it still not come off? Yes, the answer is yes. And the solution to that is leaning on the law, the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Because if you do an appropriate dispute, like I just told you identify a student loan that has inaccurate information. It's going to be very clear once you get the book and get the information. You're gonna understand what inaccurate is, what incomplete is. And once you identify it, you've done your job. Now Equifax, Experian, TransUnion has to do their job and delete that information. Now, what if they don't want to delete it? Can they modify it? Yes, they can. If they do modify it, it has to be modified to something that's complete and accurate. They're not going to do it, most likely. So they should delete it. If they don't delete it or modify it to where it's complete and accurate, they violate the Fair Credit Reporting Act. And you have the right to engage an attorney or yourself, and you could sue them. You can sue them for defamation. You can sue them for violating the Fair Credit Reporting Act. And so you do have a remedy. What I'm seeing is, and what you may have been experiencing is, if you have a proper dispute, first of all, we have to start with a proper dispute, because if you don't have a proper dispute, or you can suffer by not really being able to sue because your dispute is bad, where you can't, for example, let me give you an example of an improper dispute. The following information is unverifiable. Put your student loan, put the late payment, please delete it. That is not proper. You have not identified anything that's inaccurate or incomplete. Or, I've never had a student loan, please delete it. Well, you technically haven't identified it as inaccurate or incomplete. And if you did have a student loan, then that's a lie. You can't sue on that. You can, but you can get kicked out of court, or you can get caught up in that allegation being stricken because it's not true. And so if you take that out, then you don't have any allegation of inaccuracy, so you're not going to win. And so the letter in my book just guides you. You have to have key words: inaccurate, incomplete. See, the thing is, it's not very complicated. You just need one of those two words. And you need to identify what it is you're talking about. That's it. You don't have to explain yourself and all of that. I see some questions coming in. Let's utilize the super chat, please, and I'll be sure to get to those. Let's get the super chats going. Like, subscribe to the channel, follow all the moderators. So with respect to that credit repair, first of all, educate yourself. We're gonna get through these 4 steps. Be sure you have a proper dispute. If you have a proper dispute and you don't get the result you're looking for, the key thing to remember is the next step is not redisputing. Okay, so that's one of the worst things that's happening right now with some of these companies out there. I'll name names. I'm not afraid to name names. Most of your credit repair companies out here are taking your money on a monthly basis, disputing, and if they don't get the result they're looking for, and remember, the result's going to be one or two different things. You're going to have a modification or you're going to have a deletion. So if you're trying to modify, like the person that the super chatter that said they had one late payment, well, you want that modified, delete that one late payment. And when you think about it, the modification usually includes a deletion of some information. That's more of a modification of the trade line. It's not a deletion of, because deletion would be the entire trade line. So the deletion of a late payment is really a modification of that trade line. So that's what you want. Or in some cases, if it's a bad account and you just want to delete it, you want it deleted. All right. If you don't get that result and you've done a proper dispute, you don't want to redispute it. You want to sue at that point. Okay. Because they're not going to, if you try to redispute it, it's going to get kicked back. And the reason why the major credit repair companies are not telling you that is because they want to keep receiving your money. And you should not be in credit repair for a year or 2 or 3. That's insanity. And what's insanity? Doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. So no one can guarantee it's going to come off, but what you can do is do a proper dispute. You can pay someone to do it for you, or you can do it yourself. And if that doesn't yield the result you want, then you want to take the next step and sue. All right, Nathan, I appreciate that question. Let's see. Yeah, you're welcome. Mr. Metaphysical.
Hey, Brian, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for the cash app that's coming.
Oh, yeah. Thanks.
That's metaphysical. My psychic telling me you gonna make it happen.
Yeah, that was definitely that.
Mm-hmm.
No, I just got on just to really make more of a statement on behalf of Top Notch and his wife. I don't know if they're still here though.
Mm-hmm.
That Vance and you guys were able to get my student loans off,
Mm-hmm.
deleted,
Mm-hmm.
and they're gone completely. I couldn't even believe it. And so, I just want to shout you guys out. Definitely tell people here, yo, man, get this guy's book. He knows what he's talking about. And that guy Vance, I know I work with him as well. You too. There's nothing y'all can't do. So definitely y'all trust this guy's information and get his book.
I appreciate that, brother, and pleasure to help you. And yeah, it's always good to hear from people that have been through it, and I appreciate you chiming in on this.
Thanks. I just want to drop the support.
Thanks. Appreciate you. Let's see. Sorry, we have you in as a moderator. Did you have anything that you wanted to say? Follow the moderators and Relentless. How you doing? You have the floor.
Hey, what's going on?
Oh man, that's great.
I just joined Billions a couple days ago.
Awesome.
I'm listening and learning from you. Appreciate what you. I bought your book just now.
Oh, excellent.
So looking forward to the letters and all that stuff that you mentioned. So essentially, you said identify, remove, I got that much. So what I'm wondering is if you had a quote unquote credit pro working on your stuff and it didn't work, or they're dragging you, whatever processes you're showing right now, that wouldn't interrupt that process.
Okay, yeah. So good question, Relentless. So by the way, yeah, just forward that confirmation. Appreciate you getting that book, your support.
Oh, I did that. I sent that to you.
Yeah, I'm going to respond to you very shortly here with some information and those bonuses. So very good question. A lot of people already have people working on their credit. Well, understand what stage you're in. If you're in the beginning stages of this credit repair with a credit repair organization, and a credit repair organization is just any person who's helping you with your credit. It may be a person, maybe a company. Just understand what stage you're in. And we're in step 2, which is the erase stage of our discussion tonight. We have 2 more things to go over, but this stage always consists of some type of dispute communication going out on your behalf. And so if you have someone working on it, when that dispute goes out on your behalf, well, first of all, you want to hope and pray that these are a proper dispute, because all companies are not created equal. Everyone is not using dispute tactics or letters that what I would consider to be proper. And I gave you some example of what would be improper. So you hope that they're using proper dispute communications. And if they're not, well, think about it as a broken watch. Can a broken watch work for you?
Right. At least it's right twice a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
But these guys on YouTube, they claim the ceiling.
Yeah.
And it's been a year.
Oh.
To be honest with you.
Okay.
Yeah. So that all that process that's done. I'm finished with them. I mean, I'm clear that I'm in the right circle at this point. But taking things in the so you're entrepreneurs out there. We're busy. We're doing our thing. We pay hard cash to get the proper results, and excuse after excuse. And it's unfortunate. I'm not coming on here to name names, but I'm just saying, like, I wish more people were, hey, get it done, people, because that's what I do in my life. So, I just don't get people sometimes. You know, if you're gonna scam me for a couple $100, $500, and you think that's gonna get you to the promised land, okay. You know, but at the end of the day, I'm here to fulfill a purpose, and you know, I look for a professional to get it done. You know.
Okay. Well, understand if you were just listening that, you know, the belabored process that you may have participated in is one to perhaps churn, what I would say, churn fees out of you. There's absolutely no reason, unless you're in litigation, which can be anywhere from 1 month to 1 year or more. There's no reasonable reason why you should be a year into credit repair. But time and time again, there are many companies, and one of these companies are even touted themselves as a law firm. You should not be in credit repair for over a year. Now, you know, the word scam, I don't know necessarily they're a scam. I think I think a lot of things can be called a scam: education system, college, student loans. But I don't think that really gets you anywhere. And if you know, I don't know if it's a loss of money. It's a learn. Tonight you're gonna learn. You're gonna learn. And if you knew
today, right?
Yeah, if you knew what you knew now, you know, a couple months into it, you'd be like, you know what, that step is done. And time to move to the next step. It's not about redisputing, because these companies, they're going to tell you, well, we're going to redispute it for you. Well, that's not a scam. They probably really did do it, but that's not going to help you. And I'm going to tell you why. You're going to learn why. The consumer reporting agencies do not have to reinvestigate or act on a duplicate dispute. So if you dispute something and dispute it again the exact same way, they can ignore it. They don't have to act on it. They can deem it frivolous. They can deem it duplicative. So that's why it really is important to do it right the first time. Now, I think the question was, you know, can what was done affect what you're going to do? It can, but not completely. And so what I mean by that is, if you dispute something that's already been disputed and addressed, the consumer reporting agency legally may get out of redisputing it, but they legally are not out of having to report it accurately and completely. And so while in most cases, if I determine or can't determine if it was a proper dispute, I would still redispute it one time, because ultimately when I go to court, you want to have that viable dispute on the record. But keep in mind, they're still bound, even without that dispute, they're bound under 1681E(b) to report accurate information. And so, you know, I know people hate these, you know, conditional answers, but I want to emphasize the point that it's never too late. I really want to say that it's not too late. So that's how I respond to that. But yeah. So even if you've gone through a year, believe it or not, a lot of my clients have gone through a year and a half. By the time they come to me, they've gone through credit repair, they're going through this, going through that, and I can still help them. If we can't determine that a proper dispute was done, I may end up having to redispute it and wait 30 days and then pouncing, or can immediately litigate the issue to bring it to conclusion. Now, a lot of you are saying, litigate? I have to go to court over this? Yeah, you're going to have to get out of the shell. I mean, a lot of you grew up, your parents, your sister. I mean, this, you know, first of all, they didn't teach you this stuff. You're told that going to court is bad, it's expensive, all this stuff. Again, you have to really throw everything that you've ever learned at home out the window. You didn't learn it in school, so most of the stuff you know, unfortunately, unless you are following me or something, or some other legal professional or other credit repair person who's been through it, like, you know, Vance, etc., a lot of the information you know is tainted. And I named some millionaires, Dave Ramsey. They're telling you some information that's partially true. There are other people out here that are former students of Vance and others who have taken some information but have not really used it, but have adopted other information that's inaccurate, and they're multimillionaires spreading wrong information. A 609 letter is wrong information. That guy, I'm sure, is making millions of dollars off of a letter that's completely inaccurate. It's the complete wrong section of the FCRA. The section 609 is, guess what? There's a section about disclosures. Okay? It's not about a part about disputing. It's not about the part of accurate information. It's not about a part about correcting your credit report. So that's a whole nother lecture, but that's completely wrong. And people are selling that information hands over fist, but it's completely wrong. I cannot go to court over a 609 letter that was not honored because it's asking for stuff that the law doesn't even provide, has to be given to you. So that letter is garbage. So
and when the creditor comes back, well, not the creditor, when the bureau comes back to you with that
Consumer Reporting Agency,
this has already been disputed. What's the next step?
Okay, so the next step is you have to litigate on the strength on you want to litigate. Okay, you can't. Yeah, like I said, that's the disadvantage is you can't redispute, and the CRA you can, but they can come back and say it's already been disputed, which they technically have a basis under FCRA to do so, but they're still bound to report information. So you still have a claim under EB. You still have a claim under defamation. And so you can come to a consumer lawyer like me and you can sue, or you can get your own, you can use the information that I provide. It's not in the book about suing, but I have do-it-yourself litigation packages on my website on how you can sue the Consumer Reporting Agency to get this incorrect information off. And so what I was saying is you can't be shy or hesitant about taking it the next step, because you have to do what you have to do. You only have one life to deal with your profile. So if they don't correct it, or if it's been botched, whatever the case may be, meaning the credit repair company could have done everything right and the CRA have done their part wrong, the next step is for you to sue. Okay, you don't want to be insane sending the letter in again, surely, after they say we're not going to do anything. That's a waste of time. So that's how you resolve that. And we're going to talk about that in step 4 on how you deal with it. But step 2, erase. If someone else has exhausted that for you, then yeah, you're going to have to take it to the next level. All right.
Appreciate you.
You're very welcome. Let's take a few more questions. We're on step number 2. Again, we're keeping it real. REAL. Those are 4 steps. Step 1, R, review your consumer reports, and step 2 is E, erase. Erase negative items. We're going to talk about what other items I want you to look at erasing and why in just a second. Lana, I have you on. Let's get the super chats up. Let's if you're in Clubhouse, click my profile. Cash App Brian L. Ponder. The reason I want y'all to do that is because I take out time in my schedule to do this. We want to hopefully be able to do it again, and that's how you can show appreciation in making this hopefully happen again for you all. Miss Lana, you have the floor. Talk to me.
Hi, Brian.
Hello.
Yes, thank you so much for this room. I definitely appreciate it. So I just had a quick one for you. So I'm actually in the process of helping my cousin be a part of my ecosystem, my family ecosystem. And she has a student loan that she didn't pay for maybe like 2 or 3 years. So obviously it fell delinquent. And so she has those negatives on the report. So she did let me know this morning that she consolidated the loan, but she's not sure about the next steps. So I know there's a way, and I've heard it in other rooms as well. I know that there's a way to get that closed account, I guess. And she said she consolidated. So I guess it's a way to get that removed. And I was wondering, now, if you want me to wait to step 4, I can. I don't want to jump any steps, but I just want to see what your thoughts were.
Yeah, that's a step 2 item. Thanks, Lana, for that question. Because we were talking about student loans, we were talking about deleting it. We talked about consolidation, which this person has done. And this is a very good question, because if you consolidate, what that means is you're taking a new loan to pay off old loans, and now you have a good new loan, student loan showing. But that old student loan is still showing, but it's closed, it's negative because it has some delinquent history. And the question really is, can you delete that closed student loan? Yes, you can, because you can look at that closed account. And like I was saying earlier, if you look at that closed account and that balance is a dash, that balance is nothing. It's not a 0. Or you have late payments that are not reported accurately. Or you have a high credit limit that's inaccurate. Or 99% of the time, you have a inaccurate or incomplete furnisher of that information. You can use the CRA letter from the book in chapter 2. And by the way, these letters are emailed to you. If you buy the book tonight, email me your receipt. You'll get these letters so you can jump on it right away. You can still demand that those closed accounts be deleted because of the inaccurate or incomplete information within them. So very good question. It's important to do that because that negative history does not disappear or become non-influential to the credit score once it's paid. So it's still negative history that deserves and needs to be deleted. And so you would delete it the same way as if it was open, by identifying the inaccurate, incomplete information and demanding that it's deleted. Now, obviously, you would want it deleted. And so good question, but that's how you would go about that. Now, if it's not deleted after you do a proper dispute, then you could sue. And that is a step 4 item. We'll talk about how can you sue. Now, on my website, if you go to products, there's a student loan deletion package that has all the information you need, including the lawsuit on how you could sue on this. But we'll talk more about that as well. But the step 2 process does include erasing by way of litigating. Whether you do it yourself or hire an attorney, you can get this information off of your report. I've seen it done many times. So thanks for the question, Lana. Anything else?
Perfect. No, thank you so much, Brian. I just have one other quick one for you. I am trying to thicken up her credit profile, along with myself as well. I'm trying to thicken up the credit profile with positive things. And so I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on the Rate Karma or the Rate Reporters? Do those things matter or mean things when you go and apply for a credit card? I know on average it says it boosts your score 20 to 40 points, but I just wasn't sure. So I wanted to see what your thoughts were.
Okay, good. Well, you lead us into step number 3, or the third thing. But before I go there, I want to talk about erasing debt collections. You do not want to pay debt collections. In the book here and in the bonus materials, you'll see what's called a 1692 GB letter. Do not dispute debt collections with the consumer reporting agencies. Use the 1692 GB
Sorry,
letter.
Brian, my phone cut out. What was the section you said?
1692 GB letter. But it's part 2 of it's in chapter 2 of the book. Step 2, erase. But you don't want to pay debt collections, and you don't want to waste. Remember, we were just talking to the person that said, okay, the CRA was saying that something is already disputed. You don't want to waste. It's like you have one bullet and you're hunting. You don't want to wait, or 2 bullets. You don't want to waste that bullet with a CRA dispute when you have a collection. Collections should be dealt with, preferably directly with the debt collector. They're really scared of you because they have extra laws against them called the FDCPA that say basically they can't do anything wrong. And if they do something wrong, they owe you $1,000. So you want to use the letter in chapter 2. This is in page 41. And again, this is emailed to you after you buy the book when you email me. And you want to dispute debt collections with debt collectors. And with this letter, it pretty much makes them it makes them do what you want to do, which is delete the debt. Or if they want to play the legal game, they're bound to play it 100% right, or they're going to be owing you some money. They typically will opt to delete the debt because it's too risky. Because if they do something wrong, they don't just owe you $1,000, but they're going to owe me $400 an hour. They're going to owe you the filing fee, the court fees, the costs, and it's just too expensive. The liability is too great. And so use this letter, 1692 GB letter is what I call it, because it's based on 15 USC 1692 GB, which is a section of the FDCPA, which stands for Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Have no fear. All this stuff is in the book. Even the law itself is included in the bonus material. So have no fear about that. Now, back to your question, which I think, because I'm turning 43, let me see if did I forget it. But adding positive credit. We're gonna go to, so now that's the third thing, keeping it real. I want y'all to remember these steps. REAL, keep it real. 1, R, review. 2 is the E, erase. And now we're on number 3, add. You see, look at number chapter 3 is add. And what you want to do is add positive credit. Add positive credit. Now, what do I think of the rental karma, all that stuff? Those are fine. I do not want you to use Experian Boost. Do not pay these consumer reporting agencies any money. They're making money. They're making billions. That's with a B. Billions of dollars off of you. Billions of dollars off of you, and you do not need to be paying them any money to boost your report. And if you read the fine print, the access you're giving them to boost that report is unbelievable. You allow them to look into your bank account and history. Oh my God. They're collecting and selling information. They're not worth the boost. Do not use that.
That's Brian, because she definitely asked me about the boost.
Oh, Lord.
And I wasn't sure, so.
Do not do the boost. Rental karma, fine. Other primary information, fine. Primary accounts. Do you need to pay thousands of dollars for authorized user trade lines? I say no. Why? Because that's temporary. There are so many inexpensive ways to get primary credit. You should not be paying these top dollars for authorized users. If you're going to get a trade line, there are some sources. We have Vito, who I guess jumped off here, that can direct you to some primary sources for primary trade line. Now let's talk about it. Primary trade lines are ones that stay with you. They are ones that are based on accounts that you have. I have Vito here that can talk to you briefly about the difference between primary trade lines and authorized users. Primaries are the ones that are going to stick with you, but those are very important because you're going to have to add credit. Credit repair is not just about deleting negative credit. If you delete negative credit and don't add positive trade lines in history, you're not going to be able to proceed financially. Vito, can you chime in on this?
Yeah. So the primary trade lines are the ones that are in your name in particular. For example, credit card in your own name where you're not an authorized user. Mortgage, for example, that is in your name. An auto loan, a loan in general that may be secured against your credit that you're a personal guarantor of. Those are primary accounts or examples of primary accounts. In a lot of ways, and if Cindy, the underwriter, was on here, she could talk through kind of what is prominent and what is looked and sought after in the world of lending. But in particular, what we've seen or come across is that primary trade lines are those in particular, and we have those. And myself and Leah can add those to your profile. And I don't know if you follow Leah or not, or if you're in the Billion Private Banking Program, you're familiar with who she is. So you can click on her bio in her Instagram account, schedule a time to talk and kind of go through those with her in particular, as well as authorized trade lines. Authorized user trade lines are typically less expensive. And what you're doing is you're
basically acquiring a position on a credit card for up to 60 days. Those credit cards vary from the age and the limit that they have, and the amount of time that the payments were made. For example, right now, the reason why authorized user trade lines are good in a lot of ways is because they're affordable to get an entry point into credit, and they'll be on your credit report for 60 days. And then if they're good, they'll drop like ours into your history. They'll be in your history permanently. So you're basically going to buy that age, that limit, for that amount of time. And those can have varying effects on your credit, especially if you're new, or if you're trying to compensate for utilization, or you're trying to apply for other credit, which a lot of the times, if you listen to Brian talk or ML Billion, they talk about buying money. And those are essentially what you're doing. You're buying the access to the credit, even if it's for a period of time, to report on your credit report and be able to be seen by others, to put yourself in a position to either acquire more credit cards, acquire that loan, or put yourself into position to use the money to invest in an appropriate source. Hope that made sense.
Vito, oh man, appreciate you so much. This step, all these steps are very important, but step 3 is so forgotten. Adding positive credit. It's almost like, imagine trying to get yourself ready for competition, and you are reshaping your body, you're repairing your body. We were talking about repairing credit, and you lose all the fat. I mean, you haven't worked out in many years and you're just fat. Step 2, erasing all the fat. What are you left with? You're left with a little muscle. Remember, you have to have muscle to move around. You're not in good shape. That's not a pretty sight, is it? Deleting all the fat and being left with the little muscle that's needed to move your bones. That's not a pretty sight. What Vito was talking about is so important for you to become attractive. And who you becoming attractive for? Financial companies, so you can buy money, buy opportunity. And remember, I'm not going to treat you like Dave Ramsey. I'm not going to tell you credit is bad. Cut up your credit card. You need this. I'm going to treat you like adults and astute financial investors that you're going to become, that you want to become. And you're going to need that by getting some credit. Now,
Can I ask a question?
As soon as I call on you, yes, as soon as I call on you. So with this step of adding positive credit, Vito is part of a private equity firm and has a wealth of information that can get you connected with these primary trade lines and things that you can do to accelerate, your way into qualifying yourself for financing. So again, be sure to follow Vito. I think Vito, in about 15 minutes or so, you just follow Vito. You'll see him in another room with myself talking about some other things related to this, but it's very important. Step 3, E, add positive credit. And positive credit basically means trade lines. You want it to be primary, that will stick with you. You also have the opportunity. I know Vance has made access millions of dollars, and also, just like Vance teaches about secured credit cards. Well, a long time ago, that was really all we had. Now we have the ability to get large sums of money from a primary trade line basis without having to put up all that money. Between Vito and I, we can show you how to have, tens of thousands of dollars of primary credit where you're not putting that in the bank, letting it sit. And so the secured credit card method worked. It worked for me. I was able to buy a home for $625,000. Would get this, a $300 secured credit card was my only positive item. I deleted everything that was negative. I got a secured credit card. After a few months, my score was in the mid 600s. So it doesn't take a lot of money. But again, this is 16 years ago. Now, you can have $15,000 of secured, of not secured, but of primary credit. And so the possibilities are much greater for you now with the primary trade lines that are available to you. So thanks again, Vito. And again, follow Vito and all your moderators. It's sophisticated. Sure, go ahead and it's sophisticated. Go ahead and what's your question? Welcome.
All right, cool. Hello. So I have two questions. All right, so I jumped in when you were like at the end of how to move a late payment. So if you could go over how to move a late payment, and then another thing is, can you take inquiries off of your credit report that have attached accounts to them? And if so, how?
Okay, very good. So, great question. The answer is can you? Yes, absolutely. Yes. Should you? Well, we're going to talk about it. So, inquiries, for those that are not familiar with the definition, are listed companies and dates. And the companies are companies that pulled or obtained your credit report. All right. And the date is when they did it. The inquiries will stay in your credit report for 2 years. And some places say after a year or maybe even less, those inquiries have a little effect. But inquiries, they add up and it can cost many, many, many points. Once they add up, they may be anywhere from 2 to several points each, but they add up, especially when you're out farming, trying to get some credit. So you want to be cognizant of that and be careful and only apply to stuff that you think you're going to get. And if possible, try to get pre-qualified for it so that you're not wasting an inquiry. And the question that you're asking about, can it be deleted? Yes, it can. Why? Because inquiries can be reported inaccurately and incompletely as well. And as such, they can be deleted. However, and to do that, actually, it's a bonus letter in my book. So once you get the book and email me the receipt, I'll send you an inquiry deletion letter that you can use to delete inquiries. Now, inquiries can be deleted for also being unauthorized. So if they're inaccurate and incomplete, that's one thing. But if they're unauthorized, that means they shouldn't have been there in the first place because the company may not have had permissible purpose or authorization. So as far as deleting inquiries for companies that you have accounts with, it's a touchy subject because if you get a Chase card and then you go and dispute that inquiry, the Consumer Reporting Agency, as a result of your dispute, is going to communicate that dispute of that inquiry back to Chase. You run a risk of Chase closing your card down due to suspected fraud and sabotaging your relationship with that credit grantor. So I really discourage people from disputing inquiries with these particular companies that you're doing business with, because you can run a risk of getting your account shut down. But if you do it and they do shut you down, the bad thing is they may ask you to reapply. And so you're going to have another inquiry. So it can become a real mess. And so to avoid this, you really want to try to spread out your inquiries. You want to be able to pre-qualify when you can for the financial product so that when you do an inquiry, you're confident that you may get that account. But you have to be very careful about disputing with companies you do business with, because you can get shut down. And sometimes it's not as easy as saying, oh, it wasn't fraud, please open my account. They may want you to reapply. That's going to be another inquiry. So I discourage that, but to answer your question is yes, you can delete it. You can use the letters I provide. You can add, take away from the information I put in there, but I don't recommend it. If you are car shopping and they pull 20 inquiries and all of a sudden you want to dispute them, I do encourage you to dispute those, except maybe the one bank that did finance you, but everybody else, they have to go. So hopefully that answers your question, but that's how I would recommend you deal with that. Let's see, we have Mo and Terrell. Terrell, How you doing? All right.
Pretty good. How you doing?
Good. I'll be better when I get some more cash apps. Let's get the cash app and super chats going.
Yes, I sent you a little.
I appreciate that, brother. All right.
My question that was referring to step 2 a little bit. I didn't want to back you up too much. Was just about repos.
Okay.
I am looking at a credit report that's showing repossession
Mm-hmm.
on just 2 of the like TransUnion and Equifax, but not Experian.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also showing in good standing, but it says repossession. So how do you go about that?
Okay. Well, I appreciate your question because I hadn't touched on repos yet. Repo definitely is at chapter 2. You want to erase repos. Repos are bad, negative, derogatory, all that. And so repos actually are governed by the UCC. Article 9, Part 6 of the UCC. Completely different set of laws, but they are very favorable to getting them deleted, because if the lenders do not take certain steps by sending particular notices, they cannot claim a deficiency. And repos basically is a short way of saying a repossession deficiency amount. That means after the car is sold, it doesn't sell for enough to cover the balance of the loan. And so that difference is on the credit report as a deficiency. So, in short, to do that, I have a package that walks you through the series of letters that are needed to be used to delete it, basically. There's certain things that the lender has to have done and provide proof of. If they can't, then they have to zero it out. And technically, they have to zero it out. They don't have to delete it, but technically, because it's zeroed out, the previous reporting of it was inaccurate and incomplete, that can be leveraged to get it deleted. If you go to my website, brianponder.com, and next go to the menu where it says products, you'll see a repo deletion package. And that package actually has the letters that you would need to send to get a deletion of that repossession. I think you may be able to find another YouTube video about that where I went through that a little bit more in detail on my YouTube channel. But ultimately, you do need the specific verbiage and the list of things you need to ask for to accomplish that deletion. Repo debts are real big debts, usually thousands of dollars, sometimes tens of thousands. So it's very important to have it right so you can get that deleted. So hopefully that helps you. I appreciate that question. Okay. We're going to, all right, we're going to, all right, we're going to take we're going to take 2 more questions, and then we're going to wrap up the steps. Mo, how you doing?
Oh, hi, my name is
Digital
Samuels. How are you?
Oh, great. Welcome. You have the floor.
Yes. Delroy from New York. I was just listening. I just joined in, so I'm still catching on to the basics.
Excellent. Did you have a question? Are you still listening in with us?
I'm still listening. So
okay, thanks. Great. Awesome. We have,
Brian,
yes.
Is Mo still there? If not, I just wanted to ask one question.
Go right ahead.
I told myself, okay, I'm like, hey, I'm up here asking questions for my cousin. Wait, I got something that I need.
Go right ahead.
And I definitely sent you a cash app, Brian. So
thank you.
Look out for that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Look out for you. Within the the next 10 minutes. I'm gonna send something for you. I
Oh, that's
appreciate
awesome.
it. So I had actually asked about the rental karma and the rent reporter situation because me and my husband, we own our house through our LLC. Okay, so our house is an LLC, and I thought about it. Our credit scores is in the high 700s, right? So we're close to that 800, like 780 or something like that. So I was wondering, would it be best for us to go through the process to add the trade lines to our report, because technically we could rent from our LLC, if you will, or is it not worth doing that, because when we go to try to get a loan or line of credit, it'll be a debt to income ratio situation. Would it mess us up there because our house is paid for?
Okay. I'm not sure how that rent reporting shows up. But I will tell you, so I'm not sure if that shows like a debt that's being paid down. Like, for example, if you're renting a place for $1,000 a month, is it a $12,000 debt being amortized? So I don't know.
It says the amount, and so that was my thing.
Okay.
It says the amount, so I'm like.
And so does that balance go down? It's like I don't know. So the amount of what? The balance or the high credit?
So the amount of rent. So the amount of rent that you owe.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so we could rent, I guess, from our LLC, right? Get a document, what have you. But I just didn't know if it was worth to do because our house is paid for and the debt to income ratio. You know what I mean? I don't want to say.
With the information you're giving me, with the information you're giving me, I wouldn't recommend it because of that alleged obligation that's going to show up and be calculated. That mortgage person, that underwriter is going to have to look at that at its face value, and you trying to explain it may or may not get them to take it off of the debt to income. But it's a good question because it allows me to tell you all that to get maximum punch for a trade line, it should be revolving credit. So not installment. I know they have these self lenders and things. I think may have changed their name to self, but those do provide you with a mix. And so, yes, but the biggest credit increasing thing you can do is to get revolving credit. That's credit cards, those merchant type bank store cards. That's what boosts your score, because you can get that and have a zero balance. Unlike that rental, you have a balance. It may be installment, but revolving credit is where you get the most favorable credit bump as far as score. Okay. So I would do that before you start giving yourself rent that you don't need.
Okay, King. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let me go send my cash app.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And Mo, are you still on? Okay. All right. Well, if we get Mo. All right. Okay, good. Great. All right. So look, y'all, we've made it to the end almost. Step 3 is add. What about step 4? So we're going to keep it real. REAL. Review, erase, add. And what's step 4? Lawyer up. L. Lawyer up. Lawyer up. A lot of you are like, oh, man, I have to get a lawyer. Well, remember, either you can do the same thing over and over for a year and a half or 2, or you can escalate it and do something the next step, which is really suing. Some of you may not be comfortable suing. And if you don't, you're smart, because it's a whole different arena. And I would be concerned about you if you're comfortable doing something and you have no idea what you're doing. So you lawyer up early and lawyer up often, because all of this stuff is law intensive. It's legal information. So if you did a dispute and it's not deleted, the result, or the second thing you should do, is not do it again, expecting something different. It's time to consult a lawyer. And you don't have to wait till the end. You can consult a lawyer in the beginning. You can go to my website, book a consultation. I can walk through your report and tell you if you're on the right track, what track you should be on. But you have to lawyer up at some point, because a lot of this stuff is going to end up in court. Many of you need to get some knowledge on what should be done, what can be done, if anything, what, and I say if anything, but it's always something that can be done. The question is, what's the right thing that should be done? And so that's what a lawyer can do. It's not expensive. It's actually more expensive to try to convince yourself you don't need a lawyer and do things wrong to fix it. It's actually much cheaper to engage a lawyer early on to save yourself a lot of money in the end. So we had a few other questions. I want to thank the super chatters. I got your book a while back, but love it hearing from the man himself. Thank you, Rick Wyatt. I appreciate that. Jamie asked, what's your email address to send a receipt? Brian@brianponder.com. Does LexisNexis provide a free yearly report? Yes, all consumer reporting agencies do. But remember, it's just a disclosure. It's actually not a report, but that's good enough for you to see what's been reported on there. T. Monroe, thanks, appreciate it. So look, we're going to jump off. I want to thank all of you that joined on the Clubhouse and YouTube, all the super chatters. I appreciate it. Those of you that are on Clubhouse, you can go to my profile and see my Cash App and Venmo. I appreciate y'all sending that. What that's going to do is support the channel. It's going to allow me to be able to take more time out of my schedule to jump back on and give y'all some great information. Follow the moderators. You have Vito, Vance, sorry. Follow them. Also, and myself, obviously. Click the bell so that you're alerted next time we do another room. Look, y'all have a good night, and I'll see you next time.
See you, Brian. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Have a good night, all of you YouTubers. Remember, subscribe to the channel and tell a friend, okay? Good night.